Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Crypto News Podcast. We are buzzing as always, and I'm super pumped to have today's guest on the show, the one and only Omer Amsel, Head of Web3 at Fireblocks, also the Director of Product Management at Fireblocks. As Head of Web3, Omer is responsible for the strategy and product development, enabling access and building of the emerging digital economy, including DeFi, NFTs, and GameFi via the Fireblocks platform. For over a decade, Omer has been adapting cutting-edge tech such as blockchain, solar energy, machine learning, and computer vision to create products that solve real-world challenges. Prior to Fireblocks, Omer led product at UVeye. He also co-founded Slice RE, a blockchain-based real estate equity firm, and has done a whole bunch of other stuff as well. But that bio will be 8 minutes long, so we're cutting just the good stuff here. Omer, pumped to have you on. Welcome to the show, my friend. How are you?
Thank you, Matt. Happy to be here. Big fan. So really happy to be here. That bio is like, I don't think it's like too long for me. I'm humbled. Thank you so much for everything.
No, I love it. It's great to have you on, man. I know we've been trying to make this happen for a while. Let's get right into it here. You co-founded a couple different companies. It seems like you've dabbled in a shitload of different industries: blockchain, solar energy, ML, computer vision. I don't even know what computer vision is, but a lot of really big boy and big gal stuff. Walk me through sort of your childhood journey, any sports growing up. I know you said that you are from Israel. Walk me through everything that went on and how that brought you into present day Omer working at Fireblocks.
Yeah, so that's a great question. I don't think anyone ever asked me that. But I was born in Israel, born in Tel Aviv, one of the biggest cities in Israel as far as cities go in Israel. It's only currently a 9-10 million citizen country, so it's pretty small. I grew up, I think since the age of 5, I had a computer in my room. My parents are very gadgety, so they were always trying to see what's the new tech, and by that my father more than my mother. So I got into computers super early, and admittedly, it was mostly around basic coding and computer games. I still play computer games to this day, so it's a big love of mine to do that. I grew up, nothing too remarkable. In Israel, you have to do mandatory army service. So I did that, and then took my girlfriend, now my wife, to 10 months in South America, explored different cultures. And we went to South America, Central America, and then the US. And then I studied computer science, got involved in the startup industry. Israel is super hectic in terms of tech startups, as you might know. I think you've had few Israeli co-founders and CEOs on your pod.
100%.
So
100%.
So we're big on entrepreneurship. So during studies, I helped another startup. I founded a startup right after in the travel industry. From there, moved on to the solar industry as a first employee in another startup, and then obviously didn't draw any conclusions, so jumped right into another startup that I did, mostly around real estate and equity fundraising, trying to automate that. That's where I actually got exposed to blockchain technologies somewhere around 2013, 2014. It was super interesting. It's not every day that you get to kind of see new tech, and kind of the foundation is a little bit different because you grow up, you learn about computers, you learn how they operate, and then suddenly it shifts a little bit. So it's not necessarily only you can do computation locally, and then, there's cloud, which means that you can do computation in a distant environment, which was great and amazing. This kind of shifts, opens up a totally new mindset. You need to adapt to it. And it was super interesting to be in a position where I could take my startup and pivot towards blockchain technologies. So I did that. What we tried to do is basically do security tokens for real estate. It's a little bit of cheating and we did that all regulated. So if the audience knows what a Reg D is and a Reg A and all these SEC words, that means a few different things. Basically, it's just taking what we call an SPV, special purpose vehicle, or an LLC at the end of the day, and tokenizing the LP rights, the limited partner rights. And then that represents ownership within the real estate. And this is what you tokenize. Obviously, it was too early then, because you have to get investors both on board with actually investing in the real estate and also say, you know what? And it's also tokenized and blockchain. And, during 2017, 2018, blockchain went from like being a bless to being a curse in a sense.
Yeah.
So during the ICO phase, it was a very interesting and challenging time to be in blockchain technologies. So I decided as the founder that we weren't at the right place and the right time to do what we wanted to do. So I kind of took a hiatus from blockchain technology, went to lead product for a company that does automated vehicle inspection called UVeye. And, you asked what machine vision is. Machine vision is basically how to teach a computer to see what we see and understand what we understand based on images that are fed into that machine. So it involves a lot of machine learning. We did that.
That's wild. Is that the classic CAPTCHA, like when you're logging into your bank or whatever, and they're like, click on all images that are a bus or a road or a stop sign? You guys are then taking that data, putting it into the algo, and boom.
Correct. So
Gotcha.
yeah, it involves a lot of tagging, a lot of data being taken in. Yeah, basically teaching a machine how to spot what we think is interesting specifically for those use cases in order to output something meaningful for our customers. And companies still going in a great shape. I love those guys. But the offer to be part of Fireblocks and to go back to what I love, which is the blockchain technology, and being at a location or being at the time and a place where you matter allured me to do that. So that's how I wound up at Fireblocks.
Very cool. I love that. Great intro. Now myself and the listeners definitely know a little bit about you. A couple questions that we need to go over before we get into the Web3 stuff, before we get into obviously Fireblocks and everything Web3 crypto blockchain related. I love to travel as well. You grabbed the lady, you took her over to South America. What are the best or most underrated countries in South America that you visited?
Wow. I don't want to upset anyone. I think, but so I'm only speaking from like a very subjective experience, right? So I think the consensus between my wife and I is that we really like Bolivia, which sometimes goes a little bit underrated. I think Bolivia is great. Really enjoyed there. I guess one of the most amazing places we went is Patagonia, the land of fire, Tierra del Fuego.
South of Argentina
and Chile. Getting all the way down to like the most southern city of Ushuaia. That was super amazing. And of course, the Galapagos, which are always great and like really extremely awesome wildlife where you get like face to face with it. I remember like I went snorkeling from the boat and like a pack of seals just surrounded me. So I don't know. These experiences are like we had the time of our lives. So like South America is like super suggested. Like I recommend it. I couldn't recommend it enough. So
I love that.
Yeah.
What about Español? ¿Tú hablas español? Poco?
Un poco.
Yeah, me too. I'm grinding. I'm working on it right now. I'm trying to, I'm just using Duolingo, a couple other apps, I have an aunt who speaks Spanish. So just trying to, build this streak, 20 minutes a day, keep the doctor away. And then when I go back down to Mexico, just hopefully be able to actually speak a little. Because French, I speak French and English. French is nice, but I don't speak French with anyone, man. And like, especially in Canada, everyone's like, oh, French this, French that. There's one province that speaks it and no one else does. So trying to get on that Spanish grind, but very interesting.
Yeah, Spanish is amazing. And, it really helps out. Like, I was in Israel, right? You actually get a lot of Israelis speak Spanish because after the army, you take what's considered in the US as a leap year.
Your vacation. Yeah. Just travel, rip it up.
Yeah. And like for a year. So like probably 50% go to the Far East and then 50% go to South America.
Exactly.
And then, so you have a lot of young people actually speaking like very broken Spanish, but they understand they can speak a little. But it doesn't really help you in Israel. There are not a lot of like Spanish speaking. But here in the US, it's super helpful to kind of, speak a little bit of Spanish. It's really, really helpful. So I'm glad I did. So
And my last point before we get into all the crypto stuff is Israel. I have been a part of many teams with Jewish founders, and it just seems like, but you guys haul ass. You guys work incredibly hard. You have such a high tolerance for risk. What is it? I've never been, again, I feel like I understand the religion and culture pretty well, just because, again, Toronto, very large Jewish population, whether it was hockey teammates, friends at university, school, and now being in business with a bunch of Jews as well, learned so much. And the one thing that I still can't put a thumb on is how hard you guys work and the want to succeed in business? If and I know this is such a shitty question on my end, but if you could try to articulate it, what is the reason why? What's the sauce behind it?
So I probably don't know enough about Jewish people kind of in the what we call the diaspora, all over the world and specifically in the US. I can say something about Israeli founders and kind of the state of mind that we have in Israel. We're a fairly new country, so. Yeah. If we didn't have the entrepreneurial spirit built into most of the population, then we probably wouldn't have survived and thrived. Israel is only like 75 years old. And, you need to make it up as you go, right? And that's the mentality, right? Sometimes you feel like if you know all the challenges that are in front of you, you might decide not to do it because there are too many. But if, in a sense, you're kind of ignorant to all the challenges that come and you're good at, I wouldn't say improvising, but, kind of dynamically changing and being very fluid in terms of you're very motivated, you know what the goal is, and you'll find the solution no matter how many challenges and how much bad stuff are being thrown your way. I think that's the mentality of an Israeli entrepreneur. And that's why we see a lot of them succeed. And I'm not saying by any means that, other cultures and other countries do not share the same mindset. Just for me, within the Israeli community, that's what I see. People who are very focused, very motivated. Yeah. And, we cannot dismiss the fact that the army gives you some tools, to cope with hardships and, accept that there are certain things that are above you. And then you need to just make do with what you have and find a creative solution in order to achieve that. So I think again, we can go into a long conversation. I'm not sure I'm the most fit to talk about it, but this is kind of what I feel.
Just something that's always been curious. And even with Shabbat, with, not using one of the companies I worked for, Hush, shout out Aaron and Lior. Lior, one of the co-founders, Jewish, he took Shabbat very seriously in Toronto. And from sundown on Friday to sundown on Saturday, I believe. My apologies if I have that wrong.
That's correct.
He wouldn't use technology. So it's he would work his balls off from Sunday to Friday at 5, 6, 7 p.m., whatever you want to call it, grinding. But then Saturday was a day to spend with family, eat incredible Jewish food, and read books and not use tech. So it's I feel like a lot of entrepreneurs don't also get that full day break because you're grinding 7 days a week, burnout. Whereas that day off, when you're taking off a day every single week, I feel like that moves the shit out of the needle. Again, these are just weird things I think about, Omer. Weird things I think about.
Yeah, no, that's fine. I kind of agree. I think that the other thing that you can think about is that it's not necessarily the fact that you're not working, is you have this time where you can kind of clear everything. So you don't work per se. Yes. Yeah, you have the time to get more perspective on what you do, because once the technology is there, it's all about push notifications and emails and Slack messages. So you're devoted to the day-to-day, the minute-to-minute, the hour-to-hour. Once you can get you can go a step back and think about it, then you kind of process more and you have more resolutions and resolve into what you're going to do next week.
It's like a restart.
How does everything look like? Yeah,
it's like restarting your computer, just take the hard drive, give it a little clean. So, anyways, let's jump into the crypto stuff.
Let's do it.
These are the things that always pique my curiosity. And this is a crypto pod though. So let's dance here. Let's put our tap dancing shoes on. Let's get right into it. What exactly is Fireblocks? I love throwing the ball over to my guest Court. You can explain this much better than I can. Give me the sort of 30-second, 1-minute elevator pitch on Fireblocks, the TLDR, and then we'll get into the nitty-gritty.
Right. So first and foremost, Fireblocks is a wallet provider, an enterprise-grade wallet provider. What we do is provide an abstract of blockchain for any company that deals with digital assets to do that safely and securely. Starting with, the most basic component, which is the wallet, and then expanding from that into in-depth security, giving you all the tools that you need in order to build your business on top of blockchain technology, facilitating a myriad of use cases and segments, in the blockchain industry, the crypto industry. So that's, I would say, 20 seconds about that, but we can elaborate.
Of course. And as head of Web3, it appears that one of your main roles is onboarding Web2 companies into the Web3 space using the myriad of tools and applications and pieces of software that Fireblocks has. Walk me through some of these conversations. What do they sound like? What are the big, value props on your guys' end? What are some of the big roadblocks on the Web2 sort of Fortune 500 companies end? Just give me the sort of the overarching scope of what these conversations sound like, how they actually get moved from point A to point B. Walk me through that whole situation.
Awesome. So super interesting question. I would say I'll take a step back in order for us to be aligned on kind of the definitions. What does it mean for me to be the head of Web3? Because I think everything is Web3. I always like to give this example that I was in a panel about a year and a half ago when I was still in Fireblocks, and the panel title was DeFi security. A year later, I did probably the same panel with probably the same people and the same question. It was only titled Web3 security. So as a company, as a big company already, we need to understand what does it mean when we say Web3. So Fireblocks originally, as I've said, what we provided it mostly for the financial industry. You can think about it of anyone that wanted to deal with crypto as a speculative asset.
Right.
So prop trading firm, hedge funds, banks, VCs, all these companies that dealt with digital assets for trading purposes, for investment purposes. And we built the entire foundation for them to deal with those digital assets, as I said, safely and securely. The same rails, the same suite of products that we've developed can also facilitates companies that not necessarily their intent of using blockchain technologies is strictly financial. Doesn't mean that it's non-profit or anything of that sort, but the products and the nature of the companies are not ones that provide financial tools.
Right.
They don't provide investment opportunities, or they don't provide, they're not fintech per se. So here we talk about companies such as consumer brand, marketing agencies, gaming companies. So what we call Web3, basically internally we define as non-financial use cases for blockchain technology. So this is my role within Fireblocks, to own those segments that utilize blockchain technologies for non-financial purposes. And sometimes there's a very big overlap between that and utility of building or creating assets that provide utility for the consumer. So one very simple example is NFTs as loyalty programs, token gated experiences, and so on and so forth. These might have value, but the companies that actually produce the consumer experiences are not providing financial tools to those end users, to those consumers. So this is kind of how we define it. You can think of gaming use cases, of minting on-chain tokens that represent something within a game. So use cases such as that, this is what I deal with. And it's been super interesting, right? From the bull run of 21 into a little bit of 22, and then kind of the bear market that's lasting in 22. I think it might be cliche, but it's super interesting to be in the industry right now, because there are two things. One, big companies are taking their time to actually devise a strategy and are not stressed out to do, we need to capitalize on this super fast. Like, let's do something. Let's put a token out there and
no more rushing in.
Exactly. So they're taking the time, and this is part of our job to also, help educate and onboard them as an enterprise, not necessarily on the technology itself. So it's super interesting to see how these very deep conversation of, so what's the actual use case? What strategy can we build? What are the KPIs that we measure success with? And how does this benefit, either existing revenue streams or new net revenue streams, which is super interesting, as a business to have these conversations. They're not very rushed. But on the other hand, you see a lot of belief that no matter how long it takes, the next bull run and the next, this trigger will happen to trigger the next bull run. So everyone is very convinced that it's going to happen. From one hand, they cannot be super complacent, but from the other hand, they don't see a lot of rush to do it right now. So it's a very good sweet spot between how do we build for the future without rushing anything and then neglecting it once it doesn't meet the standards and the expectations of the leadership or steering committees that they have internally within the company.
Well said. So you obviously are in a fortunate spot where you get to have these conversations with, C-suite execs and VPs and leaders and board members at Fortune 500 companies who want to enter Web3 and want some perhaps some is the wrong word, a lot of peace of mind and, clarity on how to enter the space. And that's why I go to someone like you at Fireblocks. What do these conversations sound like? What are their big questions to you? How do you sort of put the cherry on the cake and get them to start using Web3 tech like NFTs and token gated communities instead of the traditional Web2 stuff?
Right. So I guess it really much depends where are they on their what we call like the crypto journey or the Web3 journey. If they've just heard about it and they're super skeptical and they say, oh, you know what, convince me, that's not a conversation that we usually have, right? We need our counterparty to have a little bit of resolve when it comes to Web3. We need them to have a little bit of motivation to do that because we're not making up things for other companies as they come. So usually our conversations are with, either innovation teams or project managers or VPs, C-levels that have a resolve of doing something, transforming their business into Web3, but they have concerns. They have a general idea of what this is. We help them, first of all, mitigate any risks that they might think of and plan that out from a technical perspective. How do they get to kind of a production grade feature, hopefully using our technologies? So I guess maybe this is a good segue to understand what are kind of the main challenges that these companies look at. I guess the first one is regulatory, and the second one is more about the user experience. They are interrelated, right? Because if these companies could go to their user base and say, hey, you know what, we've built this awesome Web3 product, all you need to do is plug in your wallet. And then I don't know if sad truth or it's like it's a good opportunity and it's a positive is that most of their existing customers and more specifically the target market of their Web3 product is not aimed towards specifically the ones that already have a wallet. And as we know in this industry, creating a wallet, while it became much easier in the past, probably, it's a really great slope, upward trending of how easy it is to actually have a wallet. It's still not very friendly in that sense. So, if you think about, I don't know about your parents, I can say about my parents, they don't have a wallet, for instance. No. They might have an account in an exchange, but they don't have a wallet. So basically what you do is you kind of cut your addressable market in probably 85, 90% if you don't have a way to kind of give them a good experience into onboarding into your product, right?
Good point.
So now here's the catch-22. Because if you embed that entire onboarding process and you want to make life as easy as possible to your consumers, then you'll run into regulatory issues, right? Because you would say, hey, you know what? You don't need to own your keys. You don't need to own your wallet. I'll open a wallet for you, give you the entire experience. Don't worry about it. Like it looks like Web2 for you, but you do have NFTs. You have some measure of control over them. You might be able to go to another Web3 application and connect your wallet through my wallet. But then these big enterprises say, wait, so who's the custodian of these assets? Who takes custody over these assets of the consumers? So Fireblocks provide different custody mechanisms, but up until now, it was like you as a corporate customer or as an enterprise, you are the custodians of these assets. Now, if you go to fintech companies, if you go to the financial space, that's mostly fine because they are regulated entities. They might be qualified custodians. They might have MTLs. They might have like all these different, they're already deep within, with the regulator. If you look at fintech companies, so companies like eToro and Revolut and all these, you had an interview with the eToro person also. So they're used to take custody over their consumers' assets. But then when you kind of cross the street and you talk with consumer brands, they don't have any appetite to actually be the custodian of the assets.
Yeah.
They don't want to, kind of step into that regulatory mess as we know it is right now, specifically in the US. Right?
You can't blame them. You can't blame them either.
It's a challenge.
You can't blame them.
I don't.
Yeah, it makes sense.
So it's kind of a UX issue that leads up to a regulatory issue. And then to cap it all up, you have also the internal, compliance and regulatory issues of, hey, I am a publicly traded company and I'm going to put ETH on my balance sheet. How exactly do I do that?
Yeah.
Does that warrant any special consideration? So All these are concerns that these companies have. I didn't even touch how do we make it secure? How do we make it easy? How do we orchestrate it? How do we automate it, right? These are like, for me, like a second order of magnitude problems. It's not like the first order of magnitude. So these are kind of the main challenges, and obviously shamelessly self-promoting, this is what we set out to solve, right, for these companies. How do you manage your treasuries without necessarily having to pay gas fees in ETH and keep like ETH on your balance sheet? How do we provide you with a custody model that will appease your internal compliance and regulation officers through what we believe is a non-custodial wallet, and then unlocking the way to onboarding your consumers into these types of wallets while not affecting the UX too much, allowing you to access that target market that you want. So this is kind of the suite of products that we have, and obviously providing security in depth and guardrails to actually keep your consumers safe and you as an enterprise safe and secure, dealing with those assets for your users.
I love that.
So yeah, it was a long pitch, but this is what we do here.
No, I love that. And I appreciate that. We do need to take a quick break and give a huge shout out to our sponsor of the show. That is the one and only Prime XBT. Huge shout out to the team at Prime XBT, longtime friends of cryptonews.com and longtime sponsors of the Crypto News podcast. Prime XBT offers a robust trading system for both beginners and professional traders. Doesn't matter if you're a rookie or a vet, you can design and customize your layouts and widgets to best fit your trading style. Prime XBT is also offering a huge promo for listeners of the Crypto News podcast. The promo code is CryptoNews50, and that will give you 50% of your deposit credited to your trading account. Again, that is CryptoNews50, all one word, to receive 50% of your deposit credited to your trading account. Now back to the show with Omer. And one more thing before we get into our next subject here. The next million users. You've obviously been on the little bit of the podcast circuit. You have stuff written online as well. You and the team at Fireblocks are big on onboarding the next 1 million users. This is going to be extremely tough. You just spoke about how tough it is. Not only are you guys, pitching these Fortune 500 companies on your software, but you're also pretty much a freaking consultant. Not pretty much. You are a bloody consultant, and you are teaching them how to navigate regulatory shit shows and the whole 9 yards, all the way down to the full kit and caboodle. With that being said, how do we get the next million users onboarded into the big bad Web3?
So I'll tell you what I advocate and my strategy is. I think the honest truth is that we need a killer application. It might be a game. It might be...
I completely agree. You need that. You need the one thing. Similar to how Facebook, not Facebook, I guess MySpace was the catalyst for, social networks. We need that one big boy that sort of sets the stage for everyone else. Sorry to interrupt. Keep going there.
Correct. No, you're 100% correct. And I would say, for me, I'm not vain enough to say what is exactly that application. You need to fuel the industry, right? You need to empower VCs to make like good decisions in order to spread capital for, smaller teams to work. You need to equip those smaller teams with really great tools so they can focus on product and not just, kind of a mess around with, wait, how do I do key management on blockchain and how, right? We want to take this abstract idea of how blockchain works and then apply it to an application on a consumer level, which is not financial, like not a trading app per se, right? It can be something very similar to it. But I want to get to a point where I say, hey, how come no one thought of this before? This is like a perfect fit. This is like great for me. I love it. And it's built on blockchain rails. And this is what we need, that killer app. And it might come. I have my own ideas of where it will come from, but we truly believe that it will come, right, from one of these applications. Once you have that application, you'll start to have best practices. How do they do it? Wait, how can we replicate it to maybe a different segment of the market or maybe a different use case? So we'll see that as well. And
hold up, Omer.
Yeah.
Before you keep going, give me your idea. What area, what sector do you think it's going to be in? Is it going to be financial? Is it going to be a game? Is it going to be a social network?
I'm going to be crucified for this. Maybe I'm going to rub a lot of people the wrong way, but as I've said, I come from a gaming background. I think that a game that will do it, and what we are seeing right now partly with like you saw with DraftKings, what's going on there, which is kind of the border between game and financial, but it will cross over. We know of a lot of like super amazing, very talented teams. If you look at Shrapnel trying to build like a loot extraction game over blockchain, which makes a lot of sense for me, it might be like a good use case. We know that Zynga now announced that they have a blockchain-based game that is set to launch by the end of the year, maybe even next month. I don't remember. You see a lot of interest. Square Enix started with blockchain is interesting, to the fact that they announced like a game. Square Enix, the creators of Final Fantasy, which they announced that they're experimenting with it and going live with it. There are a lot of different companies, right, that are taking that and trying to build something. I'm not saying that all of them will succeed, and I'm not saying that the games will be great, that all of them will be great, but some of them will. And you look at that industry is like monstrous, right? The gaming industry is just simply monstrous. And look at what Nike announced, right, with EA Games and Epic and Fortnite, right? So it's slowly creeping in. It might come really from the consumer logo brands doing composable interactions with games. It might be a pure game use case, but I feel everyone's kind of eyeing towards that like super engaging industry and trying to build something that will accommodate gamers. The current sentiment is awful towards like blockchain and NFTs. But I feel it's only because they haven't experienced the utility side.
Of course.
They only experienced that, oh, wait, I bought this NFT, I lost 95% value on it. So, the NFTs are crap. So sorry for my language. But this is what I feel is the sentiment. But I feel like giving a good use case, it might be turned over. So my bet will be something around the gaming industry, either a game or a high profile collaboration between a game and maybe like a huge consumer brand. So that's what I would say.
I also think it's going to be something gaming related, but I feel like the most important and most valuable piece of that puzzle will be something in regards to micropayments. I feel like with the prominence of gaming and obviously, and this is Gary Vee's term, not mine, but we do live in the attention economy nowadays. And, like the CEO of Netflix on 3-4 years ago was like, our biggest competitor is actually, YouTube and gaming. It's the people that spend their time. It's not Hulu or Prime or whatever. It's literally other verticals of attention economy. I think that it's going to be something in regards to kids or people like us gaming all the time with some type of micropayments baked in, where you have X amount of people watching your stream, boom, you get their native coin, or you get a chunk of Bitcoin, a chunk of ETH, a chunk of Tether, a chunk of whatever. But I feel like it's going to be some type of combo in there.
Yeah, creation economy is super interesting.
Yeah, it's huge. The other big one is what you already worked on is, I feel like, tokenizing real world assets, homes, cars, whatever the case may be. When your car breaks down, you go to the mechanic, you don't know who did what before it. There's no actual log, right? Like blockchain can fix that. What about healthcare? Same shit. So I feel like it's going to be some either massive industry that has nothing to do with the attention, like, healthcare or auto, or it's going to be something attention related like gaming, but it has to be baked in with finance. I feel like gaming alone will not do it. That's just me. But those are my takes on that.
I appreciate that.
Yeah, man.
I appreciate that.
So what other areas of crypto really get you going at the moment? And what other areas of crypto is Fireblocks really zoned in on present day that you guys think is going to be huge over the next 5-10 years?
So I think, and this is kind of me, not as part of my responsibility, but what I see in the market. I think like CBDCs and stable coins are going to be amazing and a huge catalyst for the entire industry as well. Maybe like the existing industry and bringing on more on the traditional finance space to have that. We do offer products around that. I'm not the most qualified to talk about it, but being able to issue stable coins and working with governments on CBDCs is a super interesting space right now. I feel like this is what we needed to onboard the traditional finance into the blockchain rails. Once that is done, the gap between kind of the traditional finance and what we call it kind of the crypto finance or the crypto native finance is a shorter hop than what it used to be. So the more we can get like these traditional financial institutions on board, creating those tokenized assets. So as you said, right? I mean, it also relates to real world assets being tokenized, but let's start with kind of the deep financial facilitation layer and then see how it leads to kind of a more adoption and more synergies between kind of the traditional finance and the new finance, I would say.
Yeah, well said. I like that. Omer, this has been a treat, man. We are getting a little tight for time. One last segment before we wrap up. Hot Take Factory, preferably non-crypto related. Give me a couple Omer hot takes before we let you go. Health, wealth, happiness, space race, AI, aliens, food, you name it. But give me a couple spicy hot takes, preferably non-crypto or blockchain related, and then we'll wrap this baby up.
Wow, I have 3 kids. I'm such a dad. Like I'm such a dad. Like everything I think of is like how great it is to have kids, but sometimes banging your head against the wall. So I would say my hot take is to dedicate time for your family. Like for me, that's the best thing that happened to me. I know everyone watching is like super hectic and like have a busy schedule, and me too. And I don't do that enough. But like really, my hot take is like spending time with your family is probably the best investment that you can make in the short term. So
that's a good one. I love that.
Sorry for being such a Reddit wholesome, subreddit. So, but really, no, that's what I have for you.
That one hits hard. I'm 28, man. I would, if I met the lady of my dreams tomorrow, and obviously she's the one who's going to be pumping out the kids, not me. I'm only half the equation, realistically, like 1% of the equation. But I mean, I'd like to have a family with 3 kids 10 years down the road as well. So
awesome.
But Omer, this has been a treat. Really appreciate you coming on. Before you go, please let our listeners know where they can find you and Fireblocks online and on socials.
Yeah, so find us at fireblocks.com. We're hiring. Look, if you have any interesting jobs, it's a really awesome company. I know I'm biased, but I don't know, for what it's worth, believe me. And you can find me on Twitter at Omer Amsel. And yeah, you can find Fireblocks at Fireblocks. So always happy to engage in conversation. DM me if you need anything, if you have any questions. Talk to you all soon.
Love it. Omer, thanks again, man. Appreciate it. Pumped to have you on for round 2. And we'll keep in touch, my friend.
Thanks, Matt.
Folks, what an episode with Omer Amsel, head of Web3 at the one and only Fireblocks. Huge shout out to his team and my team for making this happen. Great episode, learned a ton. Hope you guys did as well. To the listeners, love you guys. Thank you so much for listening. As always, if you enjoyed this one, please do subscribe. It would mean the world to my team and I. Speaking of the team, love you guys. Thank you for everything. I'd be hooped without you. And I cannot tell you how amazing you guys all are. Eustace, my amazing sound editor. You're the GOAT and you know it. And the listeners, thanks again for everything, guys. Appreciate you. Keep on growing those bags and keep on staying happy, wealthy, and healthy. Bye for now, and we'll talk soon.